All right, good morning, Shift Church. Normally, we have a video made by Jenna, but she was too busy getting some new drips, so unfortunately, she couldn't do it. Did I use that term right? I just want to make sure I'm bussing. You know. Great. Well, anyways, for those of you who haven't been here before, this is Shift Church, and we have a QR code here you can scan for more information, and you can sign up. And if you do that, we'll send you some free Opus coffee. Joe will bring it to your house, and it will be hot, so please don't burn yourself and sue him, because he will condemn you to hell, and that's not really fun. Small group signups are live, so you can sign up for those using this QR code. And right now we're going through the book God Breathed by Zach Hunt, who will be speaking here on September 24th. And just remember, sign up for the small groups using the QR code. On September 3rd, there will be no service because it's a long weekend, and we'd like everybody to enjoy themselves, including our amazing volunteers and staff. So there will be a teaching online on the YouTube channel if you're interested in that. And don't forget that we will have our Cosplay Sunday coming up next week, where we wrap up the 70s era. And anybody else not know what cosplay meant? Apparently it means to dress up, so you need to dress up like someone from the 70s. There you go, costumes, exactly. I'll just remind everybody that generosity jars as well. So we're collecting loose change in jars, trying to get enough for the holidays. Last year we used the money to feed 75 families at Thanksgiving. We'd like to double that number, so we'll keep reminding everybody, bring in your jars to fill up the big one we have at the back. And that's it. So take it away, Joe.
Next week is the dress up or cosplay, the dress up day for your old people. But I'm just going to say, I don't want to see any short cutoff jean shorts, gentlemen. And if we can keep the chest hair to a minimum, that'd be great. That'd be perfect. I got my shirt in yesterday, and it is something. It's groovy. It's groovy. It's a 70s rug. My wife picked it out, yeah. So Go Your Own Way was released 3 months before Fleetwood Mac's critically acclaimed album, Rumors. And it's probably the band's best album altogether. And it went on to sell 10 million copies worldwide in the first month alone. So in the mid-70s, the lives of the band members of Fleetwood Mac were kind of a mess. Two of the couples in the band were going through, or one of the couples was going through a divorce, and the dating relationship between Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham, the one singing the song, was coming to a very public and chaotic end. And the song is about all of that. Now, despite all that was going on, like turmoil behind the scenes, the band decided, hey, let's try to harness all of this energy and create this album. And so you can, I mean, like if you watch any of the interviews or like behind the scenes kind of stuff, like there was, you know, just chaos. They were throwing these huge parties at the same time, which was like weird to me, but they did that. There was all this fighting and all this tension. And that's what led Buckingham, the person you saw singing it, to write this song about this relationship that was ending with Stevie Nicks. The song itself dives into like the pain and frustration of the relationship, kind of talks about like this love-hate thing that they had going on at that moment. And the song was a huge success, massive, right? It only reached, the song itself only reached like number 10 on the top 100 Billboard charts, but the album topped the US charts for 32 weeks and went on to sell 40 million copies worldwide. So I want to welcome you guys to Shift, whether you're here in person or on the stream. My name is Joe. You might be curious, like you walked in and we're singing, right, Leonard Skinner and U2 and all that stuff. If this is your first time, those were songs that we went through before, so there's a reason that we were singing them. Also, the band rocks, so they can do it. Last week, we looked at Leonard Skinner's song, Simple Man, and we like broke it down verse by verse, and looking at this advice that that was given to two of the band members by their deceased mom and grandmother. And we walked through those, but the one that we kind of looked at the most when it was calling us back to like this childlike simplicity was the idea of learning to trust ourselves again, right? And we spent quite a bit of time dismantling what is referred to as worm theology in fundamentalist evangelical spaces, which is basically you're lower than worms. And this week is go on your own way. You can go on your own way. Breakups are hard, right? They feel like the end of the world, and it doesn't matter if that breakup happens in middle school or high school or college or adulthood. The ending of any kind of relationship, dating, friendship, whatever, the ending of any kind of relationship just kind of sucks. And I had my fair share of them. I know, shocking, right? I was once dumped by this girl named Amber for being too nice. And I thought it was such a stupid excuse, like, oh, excuse me for treating you with respect. Excuse me for not treating you like a piece of meat. And I thought it was junk until she started dating this turd that totally treated her like a piece of meat. And I was like, touche, right? But the worst breakup I ever had was with a young woman that we will call Stacy. That's not her real name. I met Stacy in my senior year of high school, like towards the end of my senior year in high school. We were both in band nerds. My senior year, we took a trip. We took a band trip competition to Kansas City. And it was on that trip that we kind of started flirting and hanging out. And then we eventually started dating. I graduated that spring, and then like that fall, I went on to college. And we continued to date. Now, my parents and my friends hated her. They could not stand her, all right? Just so if your friends or parents, if you're younger, hate this person, it's never going to work. It's not going to work. They're right, all right? Anyway, so they hated her. Yeah, it is a huge red flag. They hated her, and they hated how she treated me because she didn't treat me very well, and I just kind of took it. I just didn't see it at the time. Yeah, they did. They hated her so much. I'm just going to leave it right there. But look, anyway, so she graduated high school, and then she went to a college that was about 90 minutes from my school, which was awesome because when she was still in high school, we were 4.5 hours away, and this is before like FaceTime or Zoom or even like free long distance calling. You had to get the little calling cards and only call at certain times of the day, like after 9 o'clock. So it was great that she was only 90 minutes away. I thought this was going to be really good for us. Alas, she ended up cheating on me. And I just put up with so much stuff with this person. And that last year, we dated for a total of 2 years, and I really thought that we were going to get married. But that last year was really that love-hate relationship that you hear about in this song. And when we finally broke up after those 2 years, I was absolutely crushed. I couldn't understand why she would do that to me, right? All that time and all that energy just thrown away like it never mattered. Now, as upbeat and as peppy as the song sounds, it is very much about that heartache of a breakup, right? At its core, it's about a relationship ending. It's about the pain of wanting that relationship to work, and despite doing everything that you possibly can, all of your effort, that relationship just isn't going to. And it's about the pain that comes with the realization that you cannot stop the inevitable death of that relationship. And so today, I want to be as painfully honest with you as I can, because that is how I feel about the church. This last week, I've had so many aha moments in confronting that truth. I have broken up with the church, and that realization hurts all the way into my soul. And honestly, I don't know if it was some divine thing or coincidence, but this last week, in thinking through this song and what it means, and meeting with a mentor friend of mine, these things all began to click. None of this is news to anybody. I think I've been fairly open and honest about my feelings towards the American church, but our relationship, my wife and I, our relationship with the church started to become really shaky in the early 2010s. There were some things happening behind the scenes at a church that we were both at in Wentzville that really began to kind of like rock that foundation that we had built, things that we thought about the church. And then when we moved here to Florida and the failure of the church that we came to lead that no longer exists, our first church here in Gainesville, Harvest Christian Church, that process really began to speed up. And for like many of you, the evangelical church's embrace of Trump and all that he stands for really threw me into a tailspin. And then it really went into overdrive in like 2020 with COVID and those protests that happened in the summer. Those were the things that really started to put that final nail in the coffin. And I no longer recognized the church that I had fallen in love with. And in hindsight, hindsight is 2020, right? I wish it was foresight. Like, foresight's 2020. That would be so much easier, right? Like, going into it versus, like, thanks for the information after it happened, right? But hindsight being what it is, I now realize that there were warning signs along the way. And I was either too young, too starry-eyed, right? Too in love, or too naive to kind of like really see them. But 2020 into 21 forced me to confront those red flags, like forced me to recognize that they were there. And when Tori and I took over the lead position here at Shift in the fall of 21, the breakup not only happened, but it happened publicly, right? Our official breakup was in February of 2022 during what's become known as the Big Gay Sermon. You can look that up on YouTube if you have no idea what I'm talking about. It's where we changed our position from non-affirming to open and affirming. Some of you had this weird look on your face. I didn't want to leave you with that, just like, what is he talking about? But again, hindsight being what it is, right? I now realize that this shift became my rebound. It became my rebound, right? There's this scene in The Office where Michael Scott just has this really traumatic breakup. And so they go to this Benihana restaurant, and he starts hitting on this waitress. Like, and if you're here or watching on the stream, servers are nice because they want your tip. They don't like you, all right? So just let it go, especially fellas. Come on. No, they don't like you, okay? They just want your tip. Anyway, so he starts flirting with this waitress, right? And he ends up bringing this waitress back to the Christmas party, and like he's like, she's the one, and invites her on this trip, and she freaks out and leaves. And they're sitting on this couch, and the character Jim Halpert's sitting next to him, and he says this to him: "Don't get me wrong, rebounds can be a really fun distraction, but when it's over, you're left thinking about the person you really like, the one who broke your heart." And Shift was my rebound. And not only because it was fun, but because of the way in which the breakup happened, it all became really chaotic, right? The first year of this was all about survival. And while it was incredibly stressful for us, it was also really distracting. So I didn't have time to deal with church hurt. I didn't have time to deal with those emotions. So I did what you do during a rebound. I ignored it, right? I just jumped into this new relationship, and I just ignored all of the stuff that was going on. I took all that pain and all that confusion and whatever and balled it up and just kind of like shoved it down. Didn't have to deal with it, right? But rebounds do not last. They don't last, right? So in February of this year, of 2023, Shift started becoming more self-sufficient, right? I didn't have to work multiple jobs. I was able to come back full time. We stopped having to put out fires all the time. We started focusing on real goals, right? Like me coming back full time, and I was able to. Hiring part-time staff, and we did. The board decided to hire Tori for all the work that she was doing behind the scenes for free. Finishing our 501c3 process to become an official nonprofit, which is a grueling process that takes months to do. And we just got the letter this past week. Was it this week or last week? Last week, that we are officially a 501c3 non-for-profit, which is a big deal. And Tori was the one that dealt with the IRS for all those months in that process. which, by the way, saved us anywhere between $500 to $1,000. Thank you. Yes. So now that Shift is in like this more stable position and we're not running around putting out fires, there's all of a sudden time for all of these really fun suppressed emotions to start making their way to the surface. Yes. Yay. Yay. So last week, I had a conversation with somebody that told me, I had never heard this phrase before, but they said the body keeps score. Yeah, the body keeps score. And I had to sit with that for a minute. I had to sit with that for a bit. Right? Good or bad, our bodies remember certain situations and how they felt in those situations. When situations arise that mirror those things, right, then our bodies react out of those past experiences. Our body keeps score, it remembers. And I began to realize that's why we got rid of so many things here at Shift that we hated about being part of the church, right? They felt gross, literally felt gross. So, like, we don't keep attendance. I had somebody ask me this past week, you know, how many, what's your average? And I was like, I don't know. Why don't you know? Because we don't count. Because those are the things that like drive the church, right, today, and that just falls through. So we don't count, right? That's why we have online only Sundays. Like there's no guilt to be here on a big holiday weekend. It's online only, right? We're open and transparent about our finances, which is a big deal to me. We don't have big invite pushes. We don't do emotionally driven altar calls. Even being years removed from some of those things, they still produce like this visceral reaction in my body. Anytime I hear any of my other pastor friends start talking about strategies and target audiences, it puts me in a bad mood. And I didn't realize why until this past week. My body remembered, right? But it also remembers some really good experiences too, right? It remembers these very real experiences that I had with God or the divine or however you want to phrase it, like those undeniable moments, moments of like very real spiritual experience. But I can't deny those things. I have been a part of and witnessed miracles. Like I know what I saw. I was there. I saw these things happen. I was part of this thing that I just can't explain. I have felt the presence of God so real that I feel like I could hear or touch them, right? Moments that are just like so holy and so sacred that all I could do was cry. My body also remembers people. Some of those memories are terrible. Right? My body remembers these horrible people that I had to deal with. Mostly it was from leaderships within the church. I never had a good leadership in the church for 20-something years. The first time I didn't have to deal with that was being part of Shift. There were some truly awful parents. Because most of my time in ministry was student ministry, I had to deal with some truly awful parents. And they can't stand me either. So me saying this, they're not going to be watching, I can promise you. But if they are watching, you know who you are. However, most of those memories of people are good and full of love, right? Families that we fell in love with, students that became like our own children, memories of trips and after-school hangouts, students sharing their fears and celebrating their victories, getting to be a part of so many stories then and now, right? Those are good things. And there's something undeniable about spaces and places like this one. And I don't know what to do with all of that. I don't know what to do with all of that. What I do know is that I don't want to stay here. I don't want to stay in this season that I'm in. So I have a choice, right? I can remain in this and become bitter and just spend the rest of my life talking crap about my ex, right? Or I work towards healing. I work towards a healthy way forward. So I'm going to deal with this stuff, right? I'm going to deal with this hurt, these things that my body remembers, and I'm going to keep meeting with somebody to talk about how to move forward in a healthy way. But right now, I'm choosing to be thankful for those lessons. I'm choosing to be thankful for the things that my body remembers. It's like with Stacy, all right? That ex-girlfriend I thought I was going to marry. If I had never gone through what I had gone through with her and grown the way I did, learning those lessons of like being able to stand up for myself and not just constantly taking crap, I don't know that it would have worked out with Tori. I met Tori, like we had known each other, but like we started connecting in a different way shortly after we broke up. We were both going through these traumatic breakups, similar situations, and we've been friends for a few years at college. And I don't know that it would have worked out had I not learned those lessons. The first time that Tori and I got into an argument, got into a fight, I don't even remember what it was about, and I stood my ground, and she didn't leave. I was like, oh, how you doing? Right? Like, oh, I can stand up for myself and she's still going to like me? This is amazing, right? And if it not for those past church experiences, I don't know if Shift exists the way that it does now. It's like realizing that Stacy had nothing of value for me, right? Like it was over. She had nothing left to give me and nothing of value. And it's the same way with the church. The evangelical American church has nothing of value for me anymore. And now I can move forward. Had I not learned those lessons, I don't know that this shift exists. I don't know if maybe if I don't learn those lessons, I'm still a good little evangelical Joe binge watching Sean Hannity and working against everything that we're trying to do right now. Right? Now, I want to make this little aside here. Please don't mishear me. I am not suggesting that if you've experienced real trauma or a violent trauma, I'm not suggesting for you to be thankful for those experiences. All right? Please do not hear that. There are no lessons to be learned from those things. This wisdom only goes so far, and then it is no longer helpful. All right? Suffering can produce character in all of us, but only to a point. And at that point, suffering becomes worthless. All right? But within the context of Shift, right? Within our context that I'm speaking about, I'm going to take all of those memories that my body has stored up and use them to help fighting to create a more beautiful space. Places like this. So like the song says, we're going to go our own way. And I want Shift to always be a place where all people, with no asterisk, are welcomed and loved. A place where seekers, people searching for God, can find the divine in whatever way that means. A place where we build community. A place where we build community. But don't pretend that this has to be the only community that you build. A place where we can come and heal without being pressured to get plugged in, to get involved, to serve, or to give. A place that can be a way station for some, and then they move on, and that be okay. A place to struggle and wrestle. Last week, my mentor friend gave me this book. It's called Celtic Benediction, Morning and Night Prayers, to help guide me in some prayer time, because I'm horrible at it, and I feel very empty and dry in this season. He's used it for years, and he sent it to me to get me out of my own head, which is where I tend to reside most of my time. And he gave me in it, like in the book, there's a verse in there, and he gave that to me as like, hey, this is what I want you to kind of hold on to, and I want to share it with you all because I feel like it perfectly describes the season we're moving into as a faith community. It was written by the early church leader Paul in a letter that we've called Ephesians, and it's 1:18, and it says this: I pray that the eyes of your heart will have enough light to see what is the hope of God's call. Light and hope. That is the way that I'm choosing to go. I'm going to actively choose that, and I'm excited about it. I really am. I'm tired of thinking and talking about my ex. I'm tired of thinking about her. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty left to say. Plenty. And I will continue to call out those things, but I'm choosing to no longer focus on those things. Does that make sense? I just don't want what my ex is offering anymore. We're going to go our own way. And so as we move into our reflection time, I'm going to ask you some questions to guide your thoughts. For anyone new in person or on the stream, we do this every week to process what we've talked about, what we've heard, and we do so to just kind of check back in with ourselves. And when it's over, I'm going to pray for all of us, and then we will have communion together. Communion is a weekly reminder of what Jesus did, taught, and died for. And it's our weekly reminder to walk his path and to love our neighbor. And so my first question for you this morning is this: what past experiences come to mind when talking about going your own way? What is your body trying to remember? The second question I have is, how can God use those past experiences to grow you now? What memories do you need to leave behind to be able to go your own way? And the last question really isn't a question, but I want you to name one way to begin living in that light and hope. Let's pray. God of light and hope, we are so thankful for this new way. I pray that you help us to stop carrying those memories that no longer serve us. Give us strength to start walking in this new way, guided by your light and your hope. I pray that we tap into our God-given determination to no longer focus on what our ex is doing and really zero in on building this beautiful space you've given us. It feels so overwhelming seeing what our ex is still doing to people, and I pray you give us peace in those moments, give us strength to move past it, and endurance to go our own way. We're thankful for the example of Jesus, and help us to live and love as he did. Guide us with the same spirit that guided him, and help our bodies to remember this moment of tranquility when we are tempted to act out of our church trauma. Thank you for loving us and guiding us to a better way. Amen.